We've done a lot of safaris, but most of these have been confined to the African continent. Somewhere that doesn't usually spring to mind when somebody says safari is the country of Sri Lanka. Well, I've come here to Sri Lanka and I've come to one of the country's more accessible parks, Udawalawe, to see if it compares to the big African safari you might be used to. I have arrived here to the area of Udawalawe. It's just a short 2-ish hour drive from where I previously was in Ella, and just over an hour from the coast if you're coming from the south. So super accessible this park is. And I decided to go with the most authentic safari-esque accommodation that I could find. Welcome to Mahura Tented Camp. It's currently utterly impossible to film inside that tent because it's so bright outside and so dim inside that we'll deal with that later. But I'm here. It is ridiculously natural. They've got two different kinds of tent here. They've got the Mahura tents, and then I think they said the other ones are called the big game tents. I believe the Mahura tents are the more luxury of the two, but so far I actually don't see another tent around me. I mean, I've got all of this around here. Tent seems very nice. I'm waiting right now for them to make me my lunch because I'm super hungry. Then we'll go exploring. All right, it's 2:30. It's game drive time. Let's go and see, or I don't know if they call it game drive here. In Kenya or in Africa, generally it's known as a game drive, but we're going into the park. I would just point out as well that in terms of wildlife in the park, it's not going to be like Africa. In Udawalawe, it's particularly known for its population of elephants, Indian elephants. So I'm hoping to see some elephants today. And then apart from that, I know they do have some leopards. Less easy to see them here in Udawalawe than some of the other parks. And then other tropical birds and smaller wildlife as well. On another note, tomorrow, so I found out they actually have a program here very similar to, or sounds very similar to what we have in Kenya with the Sheldrick Foundation and Reteti, where they have essentially an elephant orphanage program whereby they're rehabilitating orphaned elephants, raising them and then sending them back into the wild. So I'm really interested to see that. Stay tuned to see me experience it. Now I need to find my driver. The entrance. Guys, we are here, ready to go in now. And actually, did you see we saw 2 elephants even before we even got into the park, just kind of chilling by the road there. It's quite cool to see the Indian elephants as opposed to the African elephants. I got the whole car to myself, which is pretty cool. So I paid for this safari with crocodile safaris here in Udawalawe. Park fees for a foreigner were 14,420 Sri Lankan rupees, and then for the exclusive rental of this Jeep with the driver was 10,000 Sri Lankan rupees. So we'll put a total up down the bottom there. That is the price of a half-day safari here in Udawalawe, which I think is pretty fair, to be honest with you, especially the vehicle part. $35 for an empty vehicle is pretty good, and it's actually a really lucky day for my driver that brought me here. He's never been on safari before, and because we had an empty vehicle, I asked if he can come, and they let him sit up front as a guide, so he didn't have to pay. So he's doing his first safari with me, which is super cool. I do feel a little bit separated from the driver slash guide though, as he's in there and I'm out here, which in some ways is kind of nice because I'm quite tired. I don't really want conversation. Hopefully he'll be able to tell me when something interesting pops its head out of a bush. I have no idea how our guide just managed to spot that lizard there. It's literally the color of the tree and it's about that big. But he saw it. Here with the elephants is they're so much smaller than African elephants that when they're in the bushes you basically can hardly see them. They're about exact same size as a bush, so they often just kind of stand slightly hiding behind, which to be fair I probably would do if there was 10-15 cars trying to take a photo of me as well. But you know, you compare that to the African elephant where they just tower above all of the bushes. They're a lot easier to photograph, let's say, than these guys. But they're cute though, they're really cute. Just did a little stopover down there by the lake, very beautiful. It's obviously a common place at the end of this track where everybody stops and gets out and takes pictures next to the lake. And I said, like, are there crocodiles in there? And he's like, yeah, but you know, the water is high so you can't see them. Meanwhile, everybody's just there taking photos next to the edge of the water and without a care in the world. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'll keep a couple of meters back from the shoreline. Whoa, that was close. He was literally right next to me, just looking at me. That was cool, very cool. He just came down for a little drink at the water and gave me a quick photo shoot. And that guy was definitely a male. He just had a very different aura around him. All the female ones that we've seen so far have been a bit shy almost, but he was very happy to come and explore the car and have a look. So I have just arrived back at my tent and these guys have left a little bowl of water with some herbs and some limes in for me to soak my feet if I want to. It's very kind of them, but to be honest, I thought just sitting out here in the pitch black with my feet in a bowl of smelly water is not really doing it for me right now. So I'm gonna go in, get showered and then go for dinner. Welcome to the elephant transit home here in Udawalawe. This is one of the reasons that it makes this area so famous, and essentially it seems from the offset that it's very similar to Reteti and to Sheldrick foundations in Kenya, whereby they rescue orphan baby elephants, they raise them till the age of 6 years old here before they release them back into the wild. I'm gonna give you guys some more information once they've done the whole talk. I'm now gonna do the feeding. I'm at the 10:30 feeding this morning. They do 3 a day, and I'll confirm what those times are later as well. reached my hotel. I'm staying in a place called Malia Fitness Retreat. It's down in the little town of Udawalawe on the south coast of Sri Lanka. This is actually one of the potential properties that we're going to be using for our escape here in Sri Lanka next year with our company Where Next Escapes. I will link down below. If you want to go to beautiful destinations all around the world and do amazing activities with like-minded people, give us a look and see what you think. Time to sum up my time at Udawalawe National Park and whether I think that it's worth a visit. So Udawalawe, it's mostly known for its elephants. I literally went into the park at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just after 3, spent 2.5 to 3 hours in the park, did a very short safari there and saw probably around 15 elephants during that time, very, very close up. Obviously, I've been spoiled when it comes to safari. We've lived in Africa for the last couple of years. We have seen a lot of wildlife. So if you're coming from somewhere like Africa, are you gonna go there and have the most mind-blowing experience? Probably not, but it's still really nice, and it's always nice to get out in nature. There's lots of beautiful birds also in Udawalawe. If you're into birds, actually, it's a very good park for birds. I'm not a big bird person, but elephants, I could sit there and watch elephants all day. I just think they're a fascinating animal, and they're one of my favorite animals in the world. So the good thing about Udawalawe is if you are on the coast, anywhere on the south coast, you're probably only around 2 hours max away. You can literally drive up there in the morning, you could do an afternoon drive, or you could go and spend a whole day in the park. That would be also fine. So apparently they have just put up their park fees. So I saw a lot of signs when I was going into the park saying that it was $25 US for an adult. And then when I got there, paid in rupees, it worked out to be $45. Although it was high, it didn't completely break the bank, and what made up for it was to hire that jeep and the guide. It was only 10,000 rupees for the entire vehicle and the guide. I think it's worth looking for a reputable company to drive you in there. The guide that I had was very good at spotting things, but his English wasn't very good, so he didn't spend much time talking about these things. He just stopped, pointed. It was fine for me because I'm there predominantly to create content anyway. I just want to see stuff. But I think if I was doing it next time, I would probably do it with the camp where I stayed, Mahura. They have a very good naturalist. His name is Mr. Solomon. He has a lot of information about the park. He's lived there for years and years and years, and he's worked very closely with the park. So as for Mahura camp, very nice. I could recommend staying there at least just for a night to get that real safari kind of experience. Don't expect anything too luxurious, but it was very comfortable. The food was very nice, and it was something a little bit more unique than just staying in another guest house. And then there is the Elephant Transit Home. It's very similar to the likes of Reteti in Kenya or the Sheldrick Foundation in Kenya, although I would say perhaps they do it a little bit better. Roughly 1,800 rupees entrance. I think it was 1,890 or something like that. I did film it, so I'll put that clip up. What they're doing there is a very good thing. Any of the orphaned elephants that come from the forest, they take in that orphaned elephant, they raise it until the age of 6 years old. At 6 years old, they send it back into the park with a collar on it. And the collar, they keep on for 2 years while they're monitoring the progress of the baby. If everything is fine after 2 years, the collar automatically drops off and they go on to hopefully live a long and happy life. And there were signs up that were saying, you know, they've successfully reintroduced, I think, around 146 elephants back into the park, many of which have now become mothers and had their own babies. Clearly what they're doing is working in one way or another. It's very hard to tell from a quick 20-minute interaction as to how amazing the standards are and how well those elephants are looked after. If anybody has any more information about it, I would love to hear more. I can only take it at face value. Now, I would say the elephant in the room, like what I did there. If you look on Google and you look for reviews of Elephant Transit Home, any negative review that you see, I can almost guarantee you is going to say something about them hitting the elephants with sticks. So let's go into that. Did I see somebody hitting the elephants with sticks? Yes, I did. However, and I'm not condoning that action whatsoever, but I want to give a little bit of context. There wasn't many members of staff there. There was probably 4 members of staff that were feeding the elephants, and 1 guy that was in charge of controlling and disciplining 48 juvenile elephants. I think it was 48. So he was in there on his own, and it was just him and his little bamboo stick. I don't know if you guys have ever been around juvenile elephants, but they're very naughty and mischievous and can be a bit boisterous when it comes to stealing food, when it comes to fighting with the other elephants. And when you're a regular guy standing in there with these elephants, they're bigger than him, stronger than him, and he's in a position where he has to somehow discipline them and keep them in line. So I watched very carefully because I had seen these reviews about hitting with a stick. Did I like seeing elephants being hit with a stick? No, not really. I feel like maybe there are other ways, but from what I saw, did I think that I could classify it as abuse? No, not really. Essentially, it was a thin bamboo stick with a split end, so it made sort of a loud noise when it hit things. All I saw was more of a wrist action of flicking and smacking them on the rear leg to tell them when their time was up and they were to move away from the milk. Or if one of them kept coming back trying to steal more milk, he'd give it a little hit on the side of the leg to tell it to move on. The elephant would respond and it would move off. All of the elephants looked very healthy. There was no visible marks or scratches or anything on them. You know, elephants do have very thick, tough skin, so I don't think it hurt them. And so I guess in these situations you have to weigh up the good versus the bad. Is what they are doing overall a good project? Yeah, I think it is. If you're in the area, I don't necessarily think that you should drive 2 hours out of your way to go just to the elephant transit home, but if you are going to Udawalawe National Park, I think it's a worthwhile stop as it's very close to the gate. So that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know if you've been to Udawalawe before. If you have, drop us a comment down below. If you've been to any other national parks in Sri Lanka, also let me know which was your favorite national park that you visited. I've also visited Yala before, so it's interesting to compare the two. I would love to hear some more suggestions of cool national parks that are responsible in the way that they do things. And if you liked the video, please don't forget to click that like button for us. And if you generally are interested in viewing more content, then please feel free to subscribe to the channel, help us grow our audience. Sorry, it's just me again today. The girls will be back in the vlog very soon, but I'm here in Sri Lanka. If you want to see more, stay tuned.